Could the Pacers trade back into the first round if they end up losing their top four lottery pick? On today's episode, I dive into two different teams that I believe could be potential trade partners if we were to trade back into the first round if we lose our top four pick. And then I'm going to talk about three prospects that I think would be good targets in that mid first round range. And then I'm going to break down their offensive games, defensive games, and just how they would fit overall with the Pacers. And then I'll give my final verdict on which of the three I believe would be the best choice for the Pacers. All coming up next on the Pacer Pulse podcast. What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome to the Pacer Pulse podcast, the heartbeat of Indiana basketball. I'm your host, Sean Trader, and today, guys, like I stated up front, I want to kind of expand on one of my past episodes that I just did where I kind of presented this scenario if the Pacers were to lose their top four lottery pick, is there potential for us to trade back into the first round and draft a guy that could either help us win right now or a guy that we believe that can help us win now, but also we can develop into the future if we want to just expand on our youth pipeline? Because to be honest, guys, we don't have too many guys right now that are really part of that. I mean, we have Johnny Furphy, of course, but Shepard, he's an older guy now. I mean, Jarris Walker, I guess, if you believe in him. I'm kind of on the fence with Jarris still. And then, I mean, Cam Jones, who's to know if he's going to even be with the team next season. So we don't really have too many young guys in our pipeline at the moment. We're definitely a team that's looking to win now, of course, especially after the Zubac trade, and especially after trading Matherin, who was our best young player, I would say. And I'm not counting like Nimhard and those guys because they're reaching that 24 to 25 age range, which I know is still young, but if you get what I'm saying, just say like younger prospects that we can kind of grow with this team. But I'm going to dive into like three different players, though, that one is kind of on the spectrum of a win now player, I would say. Then the other two are more prospects. But as I stated, I believe there's potentially two different teams that I think could possibly be willing to make a trade if we were to lose our top four pick. And if we were so dead set on getting a prospect in this draft, whether we think they could help in our team's situation right now going into next season, or if we want to add a guy, like I said, that we can develop that could potentially help be a part of the next phase of the Pacers after this next 2 to 3 year window, whatever our window we believe is. I mean, all these guys are kind of under contract for the next 2 to 3 years. So just kind of like maybe hopefully bridge the gap into the next phase of the Pacers. But these two teams I thought were interesting because they both have multiple kind of like mid first round picks. So the first team is the Charlotte Hornets. They have, I think I saw where they have like the 15th pick, possibly, and then they could potentially have around the 17th or 18th pick. So this is all speculative, of course. I mean, those picks are going to fall within that range, right? So who knows? Maybe it ends up being the 19th pick or the 16th. Either way, they have two mid first round picks. So I was thinking, hey, maybe the Charlotte Hornets, they're a team, obviously they're playing hot ever since like the All-Star break. They're potentially in play for the 6th seed right now. They could potentially end up being the 6th seed. And that's a dramatic improvement from where they were to start this season, where we thought they were all going to be a lottery team, where they've really just catapulted themselves into possibly being like a serious threat in the East going into next season. And who knows what they could do this season in the playoffs. So I think they're a team are they really looking to add two more younger guys to the mix? I'm not sure if they would want to do that. Maybe to me, in my opinion, they're in the mode of like, they're ready to add more veteran presences, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, they could still add one more guy in the lottery. Maybe they can add an older prospect, even like a Yaxel Landenberg with their first pick, and then maybe they can trade the second one. He's still a youngish type of guy that can still contribute. I mean, he's 24, but I think they're going to be more in the mode of adding guys that are more win now that can help build the culture they already have building right now. Just add more veteran presences. So maybe they'd be willing to part with their other first round pick. Maybe we could trade them like a 2027 first, kind of swap picks, and just they can kick the can down the road a little bit. Or I don't know what else we could really offer. I'm just saying, like, maybe there's some sort of framework we could add to that to where we could give them more incentive to make a trade like that. But I just thought they were an interesting team because they do have two mid-first, and maybe they wouldn't want to add too many young players. I mean, they have Sion James, however you say it, that they drafted this past season. Ryan Kalkbrenner, of course, a backup center that's pretty good behind Musa Diabate, who I think is a very underrated center in this league. I mean, they added obviously Con Knipple. They have LaMelo Ball, who's young. Brandon Miller still. They just have like a ton of young talent already that I think they should just kind of work to groom and like mold and really develop and whatnot. So I think they're just on that track of just adding more veteran presences to this roster. And I think that's what's going to really benefit them because I can't imagine they're a team that's going into next season. They probably want to push for like a top 5 seed. So that's why I thought they'd be very interesting as one of the teams. And then, of course, this other team, it may be a mixed bag if they would actually be willing to trade this to us, but the Oklahoma City Thunder. So they have the Clippers pick, and they also have the Sixers pick this year. So the Clippers pick is projected to be around like 15-ish or like 14 to 15, wherever they end up finishing in their standings, the Clippers. I know they're pushing about the 7th and 8th seed right now. They're probably going to finish the 8th seed if they beat out the Blazers right now. And then if they win the play-in, whatever. Their pick is going to be around that range. So then the Sixers pick is projected to be around 17 or so. Who knows? 17 and 19, like I said, kind of like the Hornets pick. So is the Thunder really going to add 2 other first-round picks? I don't believe so. They still have Thomas Sorber, who they drafted last year. Is not even playing. I know they're going to lose Hartenstein soon, so they need a replacement for him. They are going to have to replace Isaiah Joe, I believe, because they're probably going to look to offload him in the offseason, I believe. But I think they've already did that by adding Jared McCain. They have Topic still, who's not even really playing because of all the guys they have on the team. They have AJ Mitchell. They just have a lot of tough choices they're going to have to make. And it's just hard for me to envision them drafting 2 young guys again in the first round and being able to realistically play those guys or even have those guys really add any value to the team. So I could see them using 1 pick, but why would they want to draft 2 guys in the mid-first? Maybe they would, and they would just roll the dice and see what happens. But to me, it was just another team that I believe could possibly be willing to part ways with another first-round pick. That's why I just thought those 2 teams were very interesting, and in that range as well, between 17 and 19, I think could be very interesting for us in terms of what type of players we could potentially draft in that range. There's players that could potentially be win-now players that could still have a little more upside. And then there's also 2 younger prospects that I identified that I think could really bode well into our future and then also help us right now in terms of just being able to produce in the roles that we would be asking of them coming into the team. So going into my next segment, guys, I'm going to dive into the first player that I thought was very interesting. So, like I said, either pick, 17 through 19, if we got it from the Hornets or the Thunder, use that for whichever pick you think it could be. But these are all guys that are projected to kind of be in that range that I thought were also very highly interesting. But the first guy I'm going to talk about is Thomas Hall, if I'm saying that right, from Florida. So he's 22, but he's going to be turning 23 before the NBA draft. So he's definitely an older guy, but he's 6'9", 215 pounds. So he's got tremendous size. He could play the 3 spot. He could play the 4 spot. I love that he has the versatility, and I think he could actually help us play some small ball 5 or play some small ball lineups as well next to Siakam. So whether it's him or Siakam at the 5, I just think he adds more versatility where he'd be able to help us play small a little bit more, which I like that aspect. But this past season, he averaged 17 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot about 46% from the field, 34.4% from 3, which is not great, but he made 1.8 threes out of 5.3 attempts. So maybe it was the most attempts he's ever shot in his career, which I know he was like a 10-point per game scorer last season, then he jumped all the way to 17 this year. So definitely a big improvement. I mean, it's not often you see guys make 7 points per game jump from their previous highs. So that's a huge jump, guys. And then he just adds all-around production, like I said, with his rebounds and his playmaking. And I did see a comparison, so take comparisons with a grain of salt, guys. I always say that, but I saw where he was kind of compared to Jeff Green. And I know a lot of people say they think of Jeff Green as like this older version of Jeff Green, but if you guys have been watching the NBA for a long time, if you've seen Jeff Green like what he was earlier in his career, especially with the Thunder, Seattle even a little bit, if you were watching that far back, he had a very solid all-around game, and he actually had a lot of promise coming out of high school or out of college. So I actually kind of like that comparison because I do believe he can kind of impact the game in a lot of different ways. The same way Jeff Green was able to. And I guess it's even kind of similar with both of their jump shots, even though Jeff Green, he's improved as a 3-point shooter as his career went on. And you can see Thomas being able to do the same thing. But this past season for Florida, he was their top scorer, like I said, jumping to 17 from 10 the previous year. So just diving into like some of his offensive strengths, guys. His pick and pop game, I think he could be a floor spacing guy. Yes, he shot 34% from three, but he shows some promising like ability shooting off the dribble, but also as like a pick and pop guy, which I think that he's going to get a lot more open threes in the NBA. And he's going to also be able to attack a lot of closeouts. He's a straight line attacking player. He attacks closeouts. He draws fouls. He's going to have a lot more space in the NBA to work with. And he has pretty good athleticism as well to like finish around the rim. Like I said, a 6'9" as well. He's a very athletic play finisher as well from what I've seen. He's got smart ball movement where he makes quick reads. He keeps the offense flowing. He's not really stopping the offense. He's not like a ball stopper guy. He usually will make a quick read going to the rim or shooting it from three. He's just very efficient in that way. And he's a good transition scorer, which the Pacers like to play with. He runs the floor, finishes on spot ups as well. But just his overall fit with the Pacers on offense, he would be perfect for Haliburton and like the play style with shooters and decision makers. Like I said, he's going to make quick decisions with the ball. He's not going to hold on to it for too long. And he's shown to be a decent shooter. I think he can even improve on that even more so. He was a 34%, like I said, maybe in the NBA with even more space, with more wide open 3-point shot opportunities. And he shot a lot of shots off the dribble as well that I think maybe brought down his percentage a little bit too. But it's good to see that he can at least like shoot it from three off the dribble and then be able to be a spot up threat. But I think just like in our system, he's going to be able to benefit from more wide open threes and playing off of closeouts, being a quick decision maker. But he definitely fits Indiana's pace, I think. He can run on a fast-paced offense, especially in transition, like I said. And then he just adds that front court flexibility where he could play with like a rim running big or a stretch big, or even next to a Zubats if we wanted to play him at like the 4 spot at times. I think he just adds a lot more versatility to this team where what we have with Johnny Furphy, quite frankly, and you can't have too many of those type of guys where I think he's going to be able to add even more versatility than Jarris Walker, where he's got more size, of course, than Jarris. He's 6'9" compared to like 6'7", but Jarris has a long wingspan. I don't know what Thomas Hall's wingspan is, but he does project to be, I think, a more versatile player than like Jarris is. So diving into his defensive strengths as well. He's a switchable forward at 6'9". He's a very good team defender. He has a high basketball IQ, so he knows where to be on the defensive end, even if it doesn't mean like he's just an elite defender, but he at least plays smart team defense. So that's really what we need, guys. I mean, we have our one-on-one defenders and Nembhard and Neesmith, kind of like our guys that can be, I don't know, those defensive stoppers per se. But he does have good length. He does contest shots at a decent rate, and he's a strong rebounder. He averaged 6 rebounds a game, something we desperately need more. That's why we traded for Zubats, and he's just going to add more value in that regard as well. So his weaknesses on the defensive end, though, he's not elite laterally. He can struggle versus quick guards, which, especially in the NBA nowadays, there's not many players in the NBA that's going to just guard a lot of these guys on the perimeter, guys. I mean, you're not going to find just a perfect perimeter defender at most of the time. I mean, obviously, there's like the top 5 to 10% of like defenders in the NBA that can do that. But he can also be overpowered by stronger bigs. So you got to watch out for that too if he's playing against stronger fours. Depending on what certain lineups we have him in, he could struggle a little bit. But the bottom line is, guys, he's a smart, positionally sound defender. He's versatile. For Jackson, to me, he's a solid rotational or like starting 4 in a team's defensive system. So I really like his fit with the team overall, what he can provide. I think even though he'll be 23 years old going into the draft, guys, I do think he'd be able to provide at least a little more upside. I mean, I know usually you're a finished product around 23, but if we look at it with like how Nembhard was, he came into the league around, he was like 21, 22. So maybe I don't know, maybe not Zubats, excuse me, Thomas, he does have a little bit more of an ability to like develop, but you're also getting a player that's going to help you win now. Maybe it's the type of player the Pacers would be looking for if we fall out of the lottery. Maybe they're like, hey, we just want a guy we can draft that can help win now, be on a cheaper contract, like I brought up in my past episode where I talked about potential first round trade targets we could try to target if we want to add somebody to our roster that, especially if we lose our first top lottery pick, I mean. So just another player to keep in mind. I thought he was a very interesting guy to kind of keep an eye on. So this next guy I want to talk about, a guy that's got more upside, I would say. He's a younger prospect, and he also plays a position that obviously we just traded for. So we just traded for Zubats, but I don't think our center position is all set in stone. I don't mind J Huff, but I don't know if he's necessarily a backup 5 in the NBA. Maybe he's a better third string big, can play backup 5. We didn't get to see it a lot. He did look decent, I would say, like playing behind Zubats. It's just hard to imagine if we could fully rely on it. And maybe we do, maybe we believe in it. But also, maybe we believe in bringing in a center that we could develop as the backup and eventual replacement to Zubats, because Zubats is on a 2 to 3 year deal after this season. So maybe we're looking to like draft somebody that could fill in that position whenever Zubats is potentially gone. So this guy is none other than Heinz Steinbach from Washington University. So he's 19 years old. He's 6'10", 6'11", but I've seen that he's 6'11". He's 235, so he could add a little more weight to his frame, but solid size, and he's got a 7'1" wingspan. It's not verified, but that's what he's projected to have. But this past season for Washington, he averaged 18.5 points, 11.8 rebounds, 1.6 assists, a steal and a block a game. He shot 57.7% from the field, 34% from three, and about 75.9% from the free throw line, guys. So he was a double-double machine. He led the country in rebounding, so that is no small feat. And he was just an efficient scorer, guys. So I really like Steinbach's game. I really think he has a lot more that he can bring to the table as well. At 19 years old, he's from Germany. So you can I really like betting on a lot of the European guys, especially big men, because we've seen it in the past where guys like, gosh, I'm spacing on the name right now. Wow, I'll get back to it. But Nikola Jokic, of course, a European big. He'll never be Jokic. So let me say that outright, out front. But even like the Isaiah Hartensteins, the European bigs. Man, why am I spacing on his name right now? I'll think of it, guys, as I get through the podcast. Excuse me on that. But the guy that plays for Houston, the center. I'm spacing on his name so bad right now. But I'll get to it. I'll remember it. But you get what I'm saying. These European big men just have a knack of having a good feel of the game for playing, especially on the offensive end. Even if they have like the, let's say, athletic limitations, they're still able to make an impact or just be smart positional defenders, even if they don't have the athleticism to guard the rim at elite rates or have the foot speed to guard out on the perimeter. And I remembered his name now, Alperen Şengün. My goodness, guys. Thank you for being patient with me, but I'm sure you were screaming at it if you were listening to this. Like, Alperen Şengün, man. So, Alperen Şengün. So, we've seen it with some of these European big men. And even some of the American ones with like a Derek Queen-esque, where not the most athletic guys, and he's 6'10 to 6'11, Derek Queen is, but he's shown to being able to make a high impact on the game, even without that elite athleticism. So, just trying to make a case for why Steinbach could be very interesting. So offensive strengths, guys. He's scoring in the post at like a highly efficient level. He finishes with either hand. He draws fouls. He's a rebounding machine, like I said. He led the country in rebounding. That is no small feat. He's great at second chance opportunities. He has shown the ability to be a spot-up shooter. Short range shooter as well, but he shot 34% from three. On low volume, of course, but his form looks pretty solid, guys, for a spot-up three-point shooter. And if you can build on that even more so, keep defenses honest, that could be a very strong building block. And I don't want to say this like lightly, and I don't want to say this as like a straight comparison, but I don't know why, but he almost reminds me of Alperen Şengün a little bit from the Rockets in terms of offensive game. Just the way he plays and his play style. I could be completely wrong, but that's what he kind of like reminds me of a little bit. But he's got a pick and roll presence too. He rolls hard to the rim, finishes in transition as well. He's shown the ability to get out in transition, even with the dribble, and finish in transition. He's shown the ability to take guys off the dribble, go into the rim. Granted, he's not going to be finishing above the rim a lot, so you got to really hope that he becomes like a very strong rim finisher, but he's shown to be a pretty good finisher inside, given his lack of verticality and finishing at the rim in terms of like above the rim with dunks and whatnot. He could still dunk, guys, but it's just he's not going to be dunking every ball. So his fit with the Pacers is what's very interesting to me. Next to Haliburton, he's a pick and roll threat, of course, especially with the spacing. He can be a pick and pop threat if he proves to be like that pretty solid 3-point shooter from three. Ends up improving on that even more so. I think he's going to get better opportunities in the NBA. And then he's also going to be able to create in the short roll, even, I think. He's going to be a guy that can do the dribble handoffs at the top of the key, similar to what we saw with Zubats, what we saw with Miles, even to a lesser extent. Steinbach shows a pretty good ability at making playmaking passes, guys cutting the rim. I think he's going to be able to throw lobs to guys like Obi Toppins that are going to be cutting from the baseline. I think he's going to be a very solid option, and I think he's going to be very reminiscent of like what we've seen from Zubats and his passing ability as well, especially on the double team. I think he even has a better passing ability than Zubats potentially, because I've seen some passes that Steinbach was making where he would make skip passes across the court to an open 3-point shooter in the corner. So he may even add more passing ability than what we've even seen from Zubats, and that's why like he kind of reminded me of like an Alperen Şengün with his passing ability, his finishing inside, the ability to stretch from three a little bit. Even Şengün was a little shaky at first, but he's improved as a 3-point shooter as he's progressed through his career. He's shown to be a good finisher inside. I really like his offensive upside. And then, like I said, he just adds offensive rebounding and hustle, something that we definitely need more of. That's why I like his fit with this team as well, even if he's not going to start right away, of course, and he just backs up Zubats. He's going to bring in a lot of the same intangibles that Zubats brings. He's going to add more shooting and versatility from that standpoint compared to Zubats, but he's also going to add or bring in the added rebounding that Zubats brings. It's just, we're not going to have a lack of rebounding at least. And I also think that he provides a little versatility with two big man lineups. I know that he's not the best. I'll get into this as well, but on the defensive end, he's not the best at like guarding the perimeter. But I do believe that him and Zubats can play a little bit, especially on the offensive end, if Steinbach has proven to be a good 3-point shooter in the NBA as well, or at least like an adequate one. I think him and Zubats could have some interesting double big lineups, and we've seen how that's kind of been a trend in the NBA. We saw it with the Thunder, where they had Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein playing together, with the Rockets, where they had Steven Adams and Şengün playing together. And we've really seen how affected that the Rockets have been impacted by Steven Adams' injury. And then like we've seen it with Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid at times. There's just several different teams in the NBA nowadays where you want to have that ability to play double big lineups. And I think Steinbach would be able to like at least allow us to have that ability. Because Zubats he showed a little bit of an ability to guard out on the perimeter as well. So defensively, it may hurt a little bit, but you're still going to have two ginormous bodies inside that can scoop up every rebound, similar to what I think kind of the Rockets were doing with Şengün and Adams. And I just think that he would provide a lot of that versatility as well, just different looks that we can have with our lineups. But his defensive strengths, he did average a 1 block per game, so he's at least got some sort of ability to protect the paint, protect the rim. Even if it's not elite, he's no slouch either, I would say. He could get better for sure as well. His rebounding, of course, his help defense, I think, is definitely not bad. He's got good positioning. He reads plays well. He knows where to be on the court with the team defensive scheme. But his weaknesses, of course, is his lateral quickness is limited. He's not very switch heavy, so that's something you're definitely going to be lacking. He's going to have to be more of a drop big, or maybe he's going to be able to hedge a little bit, the way we've seen with Zubats some. That's to be determined. I don't know if he can move his feet to that degree, but even if he can, to the similar level as like what a Zubats can, maybe you can kind of cover up for some of his deficiencies on that end. And he's slow just to recover away from the rim. So some of his weaknesses that maybe those can be improved on if he can add to his athleticism. That's to be determined. But bottom line, his strengths, inside scoring, rebounding, rim protection a little bit. His Pacers role could be a starting or mostly a backup big anchoring the paint that has some offensive upside that's going to be able to create as like an offensive hub, even off the bench, I would say. With the TJ, just add more creation off the bench. Add somebody inside that he can throw into and like create and finish with. And I like his just versatility, like I said, overall, that he could bring to this team. So I also love that he could be a big that we could potentially develop as kind of like the successor to Zubats when Zubats potentially moves on from this team. And he's also just a guy that I think he could help us win now. And I don't know where he played at before he went to Washington this past season for his freshman season. If he was playing professionally a little bit in Europe, I'm not sure. But even if he was, that adds a little more season. He's a little bit more of a seasoned player to me in that aspect if he did, because we just see how these guys are coming out of Europe. So I really like that aspect, but I really am intrigued by Steinbach as well and what he could potentially bring to this team now and into the future. So the last guy I want to talk about, guys, Cameron Carr for Baylor. So he's 21 years old. He's 6'5", 6'6", weighs about 190 pounds. I don't know his wingspan. But on the season for Baylor, he averaged 19.2 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 2.7 assists. He shot about 51% from the field, which is very good percentage for a guard, 39.4% from three. And he made 74 out of 188 attempts. So very, very good three-point shooter. So his offensive strengths, he's got scoring versatility. He can score in the mid-range. He's scored from three-point line, off the dribble. He's hyper-athletic, guys. He can really finish at the rim with some highlight dunks. You're going to see some highlight dunks from him. He can score in transition. He's a spot-up shooter. He can come off ball screens and shoot. He just provides ultimate spacing. He's a transition scorer, which we desperately need as well, like just how we like to play. His playmaking and IQ has improved a little bit. He's not going to be high level at that, but he has shown the ability to do some drive and kicks. He's not going to be high level at it, but I don't think he's like particularly a slouch in that end. He can attack off the dribble. He can create rotational opportunities. He causes defenses to rotate. He's shown the ability to drive and finish inside. So his overall fit with the Pacers, he complements Haliburton as a spot-up shooter, just adds another smart wing to the mix. And he's going to be able to play next to Haliburton in transition as well. Imagine him as a transition threat. Haliburton throwing full court passes to Cameron Carr, who's going to finish with highlight dunks. Similar to like an Obi Toppin, similar to just Siakam. He just fits the pace, the pace and space that the Pacers like to play with. And I think that just like his game could definitely just fit like a glove with this team. And just his defensive upside, he can guard 2 through 4, especially if he adds more weight to his frame. I'm sure he's going to measure with a pretty strong wingspan too. I'm pretty sure it's over 7 foot, but I don't know necessarily. I don't think it's been like confirmed for sure. So if it has been, let me know in the YouTube comments, guys. But his defensive strengths as well, his perimeter play and just defensibility, his ability to cause havoc in the passing lanes, I think is going to be huge. He's got basketball IQ, especially on rotations, but he's got disruptive hands, kind of similar to what Jarris can do. Even at times, if he gambles a little bit too much, I don't know how Cameron Carr is, especially on that end, in terms of just like gambling but whatnot. But he does show the ability to like contest and deflect shots. His length helps on the defensive end, especially with his versatility. So if he can add some like strength to his frame, he could definitely be a guy that can guard 2 through 3, or maybe potentially some 4s if he gets stronger. But his weaknesses right now on the defensive end, he's not a lockdown defender versus elite wings. He needs development versus physical wings. Like I said, just needs to add more weight to his frame. And just his consistency on that end, which I think is something you can improve on. But he's got to have the want to do that. But bottom line, guys, he's a floor spacing 2 or 3, secondary scorer, versatile wing. The Pacers will, like, if we draft him right away, he's a guy we can try to lean on and develop, hopefully become a guy that can potentially develop into a starter, maybe a go-to scoring option. He's shown that ability to score from all 3 levels. He's an elite three-point shooter as well. Like I said, hyper athlete, and maybe a guy that can develop into the defensive wing we've been looking for outside of like a Nembhard. He has more potential than Nembhard, of course, in my opinion. But if he could just come in, be a high-level defender in that regard, maybe he could take Nembhard's spot in a few years, or Neesmith. I don't know. Whatever you project his range to be, or like his role to be in the future. But he can also just come into this team right away and be a go-to scorer off the bench, in my opinion. He could be that guy that can kind of fill a scoring role off the bench next to a TJ. He can play next to Haliburton. He can play next to Nembhard. He can play next to Neesmith even. He can play in so many different kind of lineups. And he's a guy that, like I said, we can develop, and hopefully he develops into more as we develop into our system. But I just think he fits like a glove too. And I think he could be that guard off the bench that we can really develop and try to bring along slowly, even have him be the 6th man. but I don't want him to get like stuck in what Matherin was stuck with in terms of just we pigeonholed Matherin into this 6-man role, and he never really had that ability or opportunity to grow past that, in my opinion. I mean, he definitely has some chances, but he always had a short leash, right? So I don't want to see Cameron Carr, if we were to draft him, be stuck in sort of that limited pigeonholed role that we would hopefully not put him in. But I would like to see like where he could develop, especially like where our window is now. A lot of these guys, like I said, are on the next 2 to 3 years. We don't know where they're going to be with this team after that. So maybe Cameron Carr could be that replacement to a Nimhard or a Neesmith or whoever. You just never know. So it's very interesting to me, guys. I like his fit. I like his ability and his potential as well. And he could potentially go higher than this. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these guys really could like go higher into the lottery as the combine comes out, where measurements come out, the individual workouts start happening. These guys could improve their draft stock. You never know. But as of right now, all these guys were projected in anywhere from that 17 to like 19 to 20 range, right around where those picks are projected to be for the Thunder and the Hornets, where I thought could be interesting trade partners, since they do have 2 first-round picks, each of those teams, that I just don't think it makes sense for them to add 2 first-round picks to their rosters, given where they stand right now, how many young guys they already have, and what their goals and aspirations are going forward. I can see where those 2 teams make a lot of sense as trade partners. So let me know what you think in the YouTube comments, guys. Do you guys think that Thomas Howe or Heinz Steinbach or Cameron Carr would be good guys to target anywhere from that 17 to 19 range? Or what do you know? Like, what do you think about their games, how they would fit with the Pacers? Or if you have other guys that you think would be better draft targets if we were to trade into the first round, into that type of draft range, let me know what your opinions are in the YouTube comment, guys. And always please leave a like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Really helps the channel grow a lot, and really helps me build this Pacers community that I'm trying to build. And then if you could always please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. It's always appreciated, and I can't appreciate you guys for even listening to the podcast. It means a lot to me, guys, and I love talking to you guys about the team in the YouTube comments, and hopefully I can develop this into more of just a diehard Pacers fan community. That's what my ultimate goal is and what I want to bring to you guys. But let me know your guys' comments and opinions. And with the draft coming up, guys, I'm going to be doing more draft content. I mean, the season's about to end as well. The games, we're just trying to lose games, guys. I mean, we lost to the Cavs. Somehow we stayed within that game almost the entire game, which I was watching the box score a lot. I was watching the score. I was like, come on, we cannot win this game right now. It was very close, but at the end we lost. But we got to lose out the rest of the year, guys. As of right now, we are in the number 2 spot as the worst team in the NBA. So probably in my next episode, guys, I'm going to break down what... So I've done this in past episodes. So if you heard the past episodes, go check them out, where I talk about where before this game against the Cavaliers, before the Nets won again and beat the Wizards, where we were at number 3. So I went through the past history of since the NBA flattened the lottery odds of the teams that finished with the 3rd worst record. Where did they end up picking in the lottery? So I'm going to do that on the next episode, guys. So now that we're the 2nd worst team in the NBA, we'll see where that stands after tonight's game. But if that stands, I'll break it down to where going over the past 7 seasons or so, since the NBA flattened the lottery odds, where have the second teams or teams with the 2nd worst record in the NBA picked in the past 7 years of the draft? Where did they land? Did they keep their pick in the top 4? I'll go over that and just kind of go over what those percentage odds are and all that and break that down. I thought that was very interesting. And it just kind of paints a picture of what past history has shown us. So be on the lookout for that, guys. And of course, I'm going to be continuing to do more draft content. I'll probably go back into doing some more of the top 4 picks. And as we hear more about whatever rumors are coming out of the top 4 in the draft and just different things like that, I'll break it down here on the Pacer Pulse podcast, guys. And I'm just looking forward to the draft lottery day, guys. And March 13th, it's going to be coming here soon. But I can't thank you enough for listening, Pacer Nation. And I will talk to you soon.